Welcome. In this month's program, we'll meet a troubled and violent child. We'll learn how couples can make love and peace and come to this month's edition of JW Casting Rod.
Live from an apartment, it's Sunday service.
Hey everybody, my name is Jake, and I'm a former Jehovah's Witness, current live streamer, and I'm just going to go ahead and apologize for that intro. I really threw that together in the last half hour or so, including my impression of whatever that guy's name is from SNL, who I now forget because the stream is starting, and I'm nervous because it's going to be a good one, unless I'm having technical difficulties up top, which is sometimes the case. But we have really exciting... Okay, it's not, it's bad news, TBH, and we'll talk about that in a minute. There's actually, there's some not awesome things happening as regards to the news that we talked about last week with the bill in Washington. I'm not going to dwell on that too much, though. We're going to get right into the May broadcasting, which I hear is extra culty, so I'm excited to get to it. I'm excited to distract myself with real-world things that are scary, with the fake things that used to scare me. So we are going to get to a little bit of news real quick here.
News, be privy to the evening news, newspaper, and have the local news, and have world news.
Okay, so... I keep on meaning to add that guy to the sound drop rotation, and you know what? There he is. That's one of my favorite fellas of all time. I love that talk. It's one of the great talks. Many people are saying it's the best talk. Now, let's see here. I think that this is the article I was looking for. But last week on the show, I talked with Mitch, aka Ron Pomo, who is a ex-Jehovah's Witness activist in Washington State, and he and other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses collaborated with some ex-Catholics to get mandatory reporting laws passed in the state of Washington. There were already mandatory reporting requirements for teachers and doctors, nurses, people like that, but religious leaders, priests, and elders were left out of that, and so there were gaps, and a lot of ex-JW and ex-Catholic survivors of abuse spoke up, and we kind of, over the last couple of years on this channel, have been able to watch a bill become a law, which is really cool. So we talked about that on Sunday, kind of celebrated it, and then on Monday, so this past Monday, the Trump administration ordered the DOJ to lift this law or look into it. It was directly targeted by Catholic lobbyists, the same Catholic lobbyists who were trying to get the bill stopped in the first place. So, yeah, that's a little discouraging. I don't really have a ton of details on this at the moment, although let me see here if I can present this Avoid JW article real quick. Let's see here. Yeah, so this was the article that Avoid JW posted. Survivors and advocates pushed Washington to end clergy abuse secrecy. Days after their victory, the federal government pushed back. And so, let's see here. This is from May 5th. Washington, D.C. DOJ. Barely 3 days later, the DOJ, U.S. Department of Justice, made its move. They announced they had launched a First Amendment investigation into the bill. The timing is not a coincidence. And this is the actual announcements. If anybody had doubts about that, let me see. I should be able to... Can I add this to the description? Yeah. Okay. So I just added that link there if anybody wants to read that. So yeah, it's a bummer. It's a bummer, but I've been working behind the scenes to try and get some of these activists on the show. We're probably going to do kind of like a pre-recorded interview, kind of a panel with some of the people who were involved on the ground, and we can kind of hear their stories and how they were able to work to get this law passed so that they would be able to help future and current Jehovah's Witnesses who will now have protections that these survivors did not have. So we'll be able to talk with them soon on the channel, but I just wanted people to be aware of that. If I don't want to exhaust people with like politics and stuff, but that's why I've been talking about this more, is because it's not tangentially related to what we do here on the channel. It's not tangentially related to our lives. It's directly connected to it and the work of people who we advocate for, and our goals in trying to push back on Watchtower and get them to sew over some of these gaps in their child safety protections and other things like that. So yeah, they really care about the First Amendment. Well, let's not get into it. Now, I made a slight mistake, which is that I was so nervous about running late that I forgot to get myself some water. And, honestly, I am not embarrassed to admit that.
There's no reason to be embarrassed about what we're going to discuss.
And so before we get into the broadcast viewing ceremony, and it is nothing if not a ceremony, we do have to close out the news segment. So we obviously played the theme to get into it, and now we play the closing theme to get out of it.
And that was indeed good news.
Perfect. So I am going to put on some mood music. We can all get our snacks and coffee and bottled water together to enjoy, to bow our heads in cringe at whatever is in store for us in this JW Broadcasting. I only watched the first 30 seconds of that intro to chop up and make a YouTube poop out of it. So I'll be right back.
It's interesting. So, planet Earth. Perfect. No. Now, think about it. Maybe we've that puts to or persecute yourself.
Sorry about that. Okay, we're back. We're back here. Now, I've been having some difficulties, I confess. I confess to you, I have not been able to connect my Bluetooth headphone. I don't know why. It's pretty dire. Do we need shots for the new... Oh, sorry. Okay, you know what? I have to go back and let's do a little chat catch up here. So Dave K, new member, welcome to whatever's happening here. I did originally intend to schedule that for 1:30 p.m. and then schedule it for a.m. and then really messed up. And thank you for Dr. Chimp Stupor Sticker? No. Super Sticker. Oh yeah. That guy.
Live from an apartment.
I just always got that guy in the chamber. What the hell is his name? Why can I not think of his name? I can think of him in 30 Rock saying, like,
Liz Lerman from Turgis.
All right, let's get to jw.org. I do have it downloaded in case of emergency, in case somebody sabotages our stream, which is known to happen because often we're targeted by our enemies on this show. That's an inside reference to real ones. And I'll just be real with you. I can't find one logical reason why my Bluetooth won't freaking connect. I'm going to give this one more shot. Because, every second we waste here is a second that you could be watching something else. And I hate to even remind you of that fact, but it is true. And I value your time. Okay, we're connected. We're in. Let me make sure it didn't sabotage my microphone. Oh my God, I'm hearing things. This is beautiful. This is a beautiful thing. We're going to have a big, beautiful stream. It's going to be the best stream anyone's ever experienced or seen. Big, beautiful. Okay, let's do 1.4. Now, this is Gage's Glockenspiel. I'm going to skip past the intro, where he just tells us what he's going to tell us. Whoa!
We know what the future holds. Bible prophecy clearly indicates that we are living in the last days. We understand what events will lead to Armageddon and the arrival of God's new world.
Wow, just quickly rattling off, like, yeah, just to recap, we have the truth about all this stuff. We know it. We just know it. It's a total fact. So this is a helper to the publishing committee, Gaius Glockentin. That's not accurate to his voice at all. I'll work on that. I'll pray on that. Does anybody know what the publishing committee does? Like, the writing committee writes the publications. They're concerned with the wording. The teaching committee actually produces these videos, and they're sort of non-written teaching materials. And so I guess maybe the publishing committee is just literally boring distribution of their printing presses and stuff. I don't know.
However, we do not know the exact events that we'll
Don
experience
Pardo,
personally.
thank you.
For example,
Thank
you might
you
wonder,
from Brian
will I
Boer.
experience a natural disaster? And if so, what kind of disaster?
Clearly
How
indicates.
will persecution affect me? Will I...
Wow. So just rapid fear-mongering. This is very sneaky how they do this. He's really framing it like, these are reasonable questions, of course. You may be wondering, when persecution happens and I'm rounded up to be put in the JW concentration camps, is that going to be hard? You know, they're making it seem like they're addressing a reasonable concern, but they've implanted this fear into witnesses, which is not true, and now they have to sell them the fake solution to this fake problem.
Will I experience a natural disaster? And if so,
Okay, well, that actually
what
is
kind of
possible.
disaster?
But for Jehovah's Witnesses, they tie in the rise of natural disasters with the biblical Armageddon.
How will persecution affect me?
How will
I
it
end up in
affect
prison
me?
as I get older? Who will care for me? Have you ever asked yourself similar questions? Has this uncertainty made you anxious or fearful? Such feelings can make it hard to think clearly. But these feelings can go away.
The uncertainty and fear has been instilled to witnesses by the governing body and people on the publishing committee. That's the reason why they're afraid. I mean, there are plenty of valid reasons to be worried about the future and to be afraid of certain things to a reasonable degree. But because this is a cult, they're instilling them with like magical problems that only being a part of this group can solve. Whereas the world is enough. It's the opposite of that James Bond movie, which lyingly said the world is not enough. No, it is. That's stressful enough for everybody.
When we realize that we are well prepared. For example, do you remember the feature drama from the 2023 convention?
The
Commit
feature
Your Way to
drama.
Jehovah?
Terrible.
It illustrated how following the organization's direction saved lives during times of political unrest.
It showed that.
But is there...
It showed that. It was a documentary. This is very strange. He's just talking about last year, or was it 2 years ago? The 2023 convention, yeah. So he's just saying, hey, you remember this movie that we made, that we showed at the convention in 2023? That's what they call, that's what feature drama means. And the movie showed us...
Commit Your Way to Jehovah?
you should commit
It
your way to
illustrated
Jehovah.
how following the organization's direction saved lives during times of political unrest.
Following Jehovah's Witnesses saves lives. These movies that they make, even though they're silly, they are spiritual food. They're from God, and the leadership refers to them as if they're scripture, essentially. Like, they cite that just like they will go on to cite Bible verses later. And that's one of the things that's kind of hard to get across to churches, or not churches, but like lawmakers who are trying to prove in court that the group is coercive. Jehovah's Witness leadership, their legal team is going to say that it's all based on conscience and what are you talking about? We don't have rules, we just have principles. But the video propaganda is understood by the members to be divinely inspired, really. Like, it is This is what Jehovah wants you to see, and the messages that you're getting from it are from God. And so it's that kind of subtle, or I mean really not so subtle, prodding and indoctrination that makes it, like the ministry of enlightenment.
From Andor. Director credit the Ministry of Enlightenment.
Sorry. I'm in a voicey mood.
But is there anything else we can do to be fully equipped for tomorrow? Absolutely. In fact, we are preparing ourselves every day. Let's review what we are already doing and why we really have no reason to be fearful or anxious.
Wow, no reason to be fearful or anxious at all for any reason? That seems unreasonable in the other direction.
The Apostle Peter wrote his letters during times of trials and instability. The brothers and sisters of the first century knew they were living in the last days of the Jewish system of things.
He did a sneaky. Knew they were living in the last days of the Jewish system of things. No, that's not what's happening. Oh my God. Do we get to play a game if I have the thing? I might not. Oh, I do.
That is not what is happening. That is not what is happening.
Gaius Glockentine, that's not what's happening. That's not what happened in the Bible, past tense. They were not, the ancient Israel was not like preaching and prophesying and looking towards the Messiah because they were looking forward to the end of the Jewish system of things. They thought, like Jehovah's Witnesses now think, that it was the end of all things, that it was the end of the world. But Jehovah's Witnesses need the prophecies in the Bible to simultaneously be true and have a larger fulfillment. Like, they need it to be that the prophecies were already fulfilled in one way, but there's going to be a secondary bonus fulfillment that applies only to Jehovah's Witnesses. And so that's what's happening. What's not happening is that they were looking forward to, like, Jesus wasn't preaching about the end of the Jewish system of things, and after everything he was preaching with a little asterisk, like, but also this is going to go on for thousands of more years, and not until at least the year 2026 of my Lord who is me will there be anything close to Armageddon. Like, no. Thank you, by the way. All right, Kenny Cookie. And so anytime we get in a little round and that's not what's happening, what a treat. What a treat for the viewers.
Based on Jesus'
You're
warning,
welcome.
they expected personal challenges. However, they did not know exactly when and how these events would affect them.
Not very useful. Not useful information. Hey, sometime in the future, there's going to be a bad thing, and you're just going to need to follow orders from God's appointed leaders when that happens, okay? All right, it's just preaching that they need to be constantly fearful of the end, and because it could come any day, they need to follow every command of the leadership. That's all it is. Hey, thanks for a nice comment from Manny's Geek. So glad I caught you live. Your channel is a huge part of what helped my husband and I wake up about a month ago after 43 years born, and also a piece of keeping from some sanity after. Thank you. That's so nice. Always love it when couples wake up together. That's wholesome. You know what that is? That is indeed good news.
And that was indeed good news.
Oh man, the sound drops are dropping. The Gaius Glockensteins or Glockentinen. I'll stop.
It was impossible for them to plan for every possibility.
It wouldn't have been if God would have been
And
there for them.
Peter, who was getting older, may have wondered how he and other elderly ones would be cared for later in life. He may have perceived that aging and declining health could create uncertainty and fear in some.
Wow. They're going to go with a bold guess. Bold guess, those. A lot of inside jokes on today's stream. Not great for growing the channel, but I got lost in my own references. He may have perceived that aging and declining health would be a cause of fear or anxiety for some. So like, whoa, maybe it could be that Peter thought that the end of the world was going to come but then he was getting older, and it clearly wasn't going to happen, and so maybe he felt a little bit betrayed by God. It's like that Onion headline that happened this weekend that like Pope who lost or like Cardinal who lost out on being Pope wasted entire life serving God for nothing.
And declining health could create uncertainty and fear in some. Doesn't that sound a lot like the situation we're in today? What did the Apostle Peter recommend in view of future uncertainties? At 1 Peter 1 verse 13, he said, "So brace up your minds for activity. Keep your senses completely. Set your hope on the
He's reading this so slow. That's 1.4 speed, and it's still interminably slow. He encouraged them to strengthen their faith and trust in Jehovah. No, I mean, Jesus is who he was talking about, because the New Testament didn't talk about Jehovah, but go on.
Strengthen their faith and trust in Jehovah. There are no uncertainties for Jehovah.
There are no uncertainties for
He promised to
Jehovah.
protect the Christians in the first century, and he would provide salvation.
But he didn't. But really, he didn't. Because they weren't saved. They just died off, and then the church fell into apostasy. That's what Jehovah's Witnesses say happens.
Verse 13, what are the three things Peter encouraged Christians to do? 1, brace up your minds for activity.
YouTube is suppressing
2,
the valuable,
keep your senses completely.
earth-shattering truths that I'm
set your hope
proclaiming.
on the undeserved kindness. Let's look at each point and see what helps us to be fully equipped for tomorrow.
Oh, I have a guess. Can I guess? Let me make sure I understand our criteria correctly. But I mean, I've talked before about the JW Broadcasting recipe, and he's cooking up a little recipe for us here. You got to brace your minds for activity. You got to do another thing and then set your hope on the undeserved kindness.
Undeserved kindness. Let's look at each point and see what helps us to be fully equipped for tomorrow.
I'm going to guess that it involves staying regular in meetings in the ministry, personal study and family worship, and not being overly associated in person or consumed via the media with like worldly stuff. Like if you're watching too much news or you're spending too much time with worldly coworkers, you're gonna get all wrapped up in that reality everyone else is living in. You'll forget about the fake cartoonish problems that we've created in your mind. Okay, so those are my guesses. We'll see how right I am.
First, Peter tells us to brace up our minds for activity. Brace up means to be ready for activity.
That would be amazing if you brought back the garlic bread.
Among other forms of activity, notice what Peter wrote a little later in his letter at 1 Peter 2.
He's always
verse
saying
9.
that.
You should declare abroad the excellencies of the one who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light. In the first century, Christians were active in telling others the good news about Jesus Christ.
The good news.
We do the same today. We are active in the ministry, sharing the good news that Jesus
Called
is
it. Called it. I mean, we can just skim through this. Meetings, ministry, talking with them. We're not beholden to watch all this crap. We can skip it if it's being active, being balanced. So let's see if he gets to my like media and worldly association.
So Peter tells us to keep our senses complete.
How epically am I winning?
This means
and
being
owning
balanced in our
and
thinking.
dominating.
Thus, we are able to evaluate matters properly, come to the right conclusions, and make good decisions.
Good
Isn't this
news.
what we want? How can we make good decisions, especially when we face unexpected events in our life? Developing Christian qualities helps us keep our senses. For instance, Peter mentions one important quality at 2 Peter 2 verse 9. So then, Jehovah knows how to rescue people of godly devotion out of trial. So what quality can help us to keep our senses completely and make good decisions? It's godly devotion.
Okay, I was trying to think of something snarky or clever to say, but I couldn't. I think I'm really grossed out by this, just the circular logic of it all, because they're essentially saying that the only way to make good decisions is to have fully indoctrinated your mind into the JW way of thinking. So, like, what does not keeping your senses look like for a group that thinks that God doesn't want you to get a blood transfusion? Well, like keeping your senses means you have to keep the JW perspective on things, like your JW senses. You have to keep those, your complete suit of armor. They like to talk about sometimes. So I think that that's what he's saying. That like the only way to really make good decisions and be balanced is to just default to what the Watchtower says on everything. Jehovah's Witnesses are the true worshippers of Yahweh. Troll? Are we trolling? I don't know. Hard to say these
This
days.
means being loyal to Jehovah and doing what he asks. Is this not what we promised to do when we dedicated our lives to him and got baptized?
Ew. Look at this snide motherfucker now. Didn't you keep a promise to your invisible friends? You took a bath in a special pool. A man in a white shirt held you underwater and made sure your feet didn't pop up. And that was your promise to God, that you'd never leave the Jehovah's Witness religion no matter what. He's going to be so sad if you ever leave. I hate this.
What we promised to do when we dedicated our lives to him and got baptized? Yes. And since then, we've
Yes,
made
we
many
did.
decisions to follow his directions, which often come through his organization.
Representing
Some changes were
trolls?
easy. Others were hard, especially when we did not fully understand the direction or agree with it. Can you think of a time when you made a difficult change for Jehovah? Did you later see how following his direction led to good results?
What if you didn't really? Because, I mean, the best result is just that you are accepted by the group Jehovah's Witnesses and that you might get more privileges or closer friendships with people in the religion. But because some of the things you might have to give up, I don't know what examples he's about to list, but like if a job would take you away from the meetings and ministry, you're not supposed to take that job. You should rather be unemployed than work a job that would conflict with the JW schedule. So giving that up, you know, they have to conceptualize that in their head as having good results. So they have to justify it. It's a sunk cost fallacy. They gave up this thing for the group, and so they have to seek validation within the group, and their brain wants to convince them that it was worth that sacrifice. Some people give up careers or a chance at higher education or even having kids because of the group. So it's really sad the amount of things that people give up. I mean, I gave up a lot of stuff the first 30 years of my life, or however long it was. And so, yeah, a lot of that keeps people in. Oh, Adam Lopez is a fake Jehovah's Witness, because a real Jehovah's Witness who followed the direction of the faithful and discreet slave would know that you're not supposed to watch apostate YouTube videos. You're drinking a little bit of poison. Didn't you listen to David Splain?
Paul said, avoid them. That doesn't mean going on their websites to see what they're saying about us.
Like, he said something like that. Adam, slow to pick up on the good news of David Splain.
Your love for Jehovah and your deep devotion to him help you to make wise decisions. What's the point? Doing what Jehovah asks us today not only brings good results now, but also prepares us for tomorrow. It ensures that when we are faced with a critical situation, we will naturally follow Jehovah's directions.
It's like military training, the way you just have to make it your reflex to follow orders or something. That's the level of control they want to have, and they do frequently use terminology associated with war and battle. They talk about Jehovah being a manly god of war, which is creepy and homoerotic. Usually my thing. In this case, I don't know. The language of putting on a suit of armor, they always show like a Roman soldier with his gauntlets and his shields and his chainmail and stuff. And then there's also just the language that they use about destroying the earth, which Blue Envelope has a video I haven't watched yet entirely. Like, I haven't finished it yet. But it seems like it's on this subject of just how violent the language from the governing body is about, like, what the destruction of the earth will look like. And they want you to have that kind of, like, a soldier-like reflex to follow directions, to naturally follow Jehovah's directions. And the only way to know what Jehovah's saying is to listen to folks like this guy right here.
Isn't this
Gay
the
Jews
best way to prepare for the
Glockenspiel.
future? For example, you may remember Sister Margaret Wyrick, who had to flee from wildfires. She learned from Jehovah's organization how important it is to obey those directing traffic.
Hey,
Although she
thank
wanted
you.
to drive a different way, she followed directions and was safe. Her godly
What?
devotion was evident.
What? This is so stupid. Isn't this the best possible way to prepare for the future? For example, you may remember Sister Margaret... I don't remember Sister Margaret Wyrick, I have to admit. She had to flee from wildfires. She learned from Jehovah's organization how important it is to obey those directing traffic. Although she wanted to drive a different way, she followed directions and was safe. Her godly devotion was evident. It's what prepared her for the future and ultimately saved her life. So they've used this really ridiculous example where, because she followed traffic laws, they seem to think that the only way that anybody would ever follow traffic laws, following those directing traffic, is if Jehovah's Witness leadership told them to, when, like, what about all those other cars who followed the direction of the local governments who were like articulating the evacuation plan? That's so bananas. But of course, this is also a really benign example of the kind of subservience they want, because yeah, if the advice is follow the traffic laws when you're escaping from a wildfire, follow the local authorities, that's not very controversial. But if the governing body suddenly started saying, we're going to send you a vial in the mail and you need to drink it, like, that's extreme. But what's the difference between those two things? One is extreme and unsafe, and the other is advice that pretty much anybody would give you. And so you can't judge a group based on the most anodyne advice that it gives people. You have to look at its most extreme rhetoric. Like, for example, this freak. Okay, I think we're going to have to get Trollmeister in timeout like a little baby. Thanks, Mandy's Geek, for the super chat. And hey, 6 months? Thank you to Queen of Flatulence, one of the superstars in chat. The only people who follow traffic laws are JW's Jake, especially during emergencies like wildfires. Yeah. They do the same thing with COVID. Like, they're like, you would have died. You wouldn't have known what to do. It's like, we would have... Yeah, no. Jehovah's Witnesses turned on the news and just watched the local news and have newspapers and respond to the evening news.
Now, moving on, we see the good news wherever we are.
I see the good news wherever I am.
And ultimately saved her life. So, Peter said we must keep our senses. How? By cultivating qualities like godly devotion. This allows us to make good decisions and experience Jehovah's care. What was the third point that Peter mentioned at 1 Peter 1 verse 13? He tells us to set our hope on the undeserved kindness. What was Peter trying to...
I don't care what Peter was trying to say. I hate undeserved kindness. I hate that phrase. It instills that conditional empathy that Christians have. Like, maybe everybody deserves kindness because we're all human and we all have to live together and work and put up with each other if we're going to survive. But they want to instill this thing where some people do not deserve kindness. Like the people who Jehovah is going to destroy in Armageddon, obviously. They don't want witnesses to have empathy for those people. So there has to be a group of people who it's okay to destroy. It's okay if something really bad happens to these people because they're enemies of God. And they don't deserve kindness. I'm obviously only talking about Jehovah's Witnesses and nothing else. There was somebody, David Wicklund said, apostates are worse than child molesters, rapists, and murderers in the degrees of sin within Jehovah's Witnesses. It's true. Yep, you can be forgiven for all that stuff except for being an apostate. One of the many gross things about Jehovah's Witnesses, and a lot of, all Christian cults are like this. They'll happily rehabilitate child molesters because they see it as some miraculous proof that God has changed them.
trying to say? How can these two elements, hope and undeserved kindness, help us prepare for tomorrow? First, we are reminded of the stabilizing effect that hope can have on us. Hope is compared to an anchor that keeps a ship secure during a storm.
Hey, he stole that from Anthony Morris. I made an edit where he talked about anchors. You can't slip that past by me. Sorry, I don't know how to say that.
When we become anxious about what we might have to endure tomorrow, persecution, disaster, or health issues, don't we feel like we are in a storm? Without hope, we might easily lose our...
Your mind is a storm. That actually reminds me. Wait, no, I'll do the plugs later. That's a reference to a video that's up early for patrons.
balance. Peter encourages us here to see beyond the uncertainties and focus on what is certain, solid, and secure.
Yeah, no, really, really well said by Anna Identifable? Probably didn't say that right, but how undeserved kindness is used to instill a sense of gratitude for not being executed for being born. That's exactly right. That's exactly what it is. And it's the reason why the group has really weird, cruel rhetoric about children and babies. Like Stephen Lett saying jokingly that babies are little enemies of God. He's saying that because they believe that everybody is born sinful. Everybody is born really not deserving kindness. And it's only when someone is old enough to consciously accept Jehovah as their God and Jehovah's Witnesses as the one true religion that they deserve kindness in the first place. It's really quite demented.
Our hope, our view of future blessings stabilizes us.
Yeah, I mean, this seems
Did
like a
you
really
notice that
stable
Peter
guy
made
for
a
sure.
connection between hope and undeserved kindness?
You know, at least I admit I'm unstable. But this is a guy who thinks he'll be going to heaven and shooting arrows at tanks and exploding them with heavenly powers.
The hope that we have is a gift from Jehovah, and Jesus' resurrection is the basis for our hope. The more we reflect on this,
You know what's amazing is that people without God find hope all the time. People who serve other gods have hope in things. People with no God, people who are in way worse situations than like a middle-class Jehovah's Witness watching JW Broadcasting on their Roku. Like, people find hope everywhere and all times. It is not unique to Jehovah's Witnesses or any Christian group. And it annoys me when one religion tries to just say that, like, well, we give people hope. Like, as opposed to what? People find hope all the time.
the stronger our gratitude and hope become. This grateful attitude
Now I
influences
said
our
that, and then I
daily
guess
life.
it's possible he's
Also.
of the earth.
For example, notice the mindset Peter mentioned at 1 Peter 2, verse 11. Beloved,
Nah.
I urge you as foreigners and temporary residents to keep abstaining from fleshly desires, which weigh...
This is important. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because I'm getting bored with this guy. But foreigners and temporary residents, that's how they want witnesses to view themselves. They are temporary residents of this world. People who are not Jehovah's Witnesses, like me and probably you watching, we are, you know, the permanent residents of this world, and Jehovah's Witnesses are supposed to be strangers to us, and they are supposed to view us as strangers. Things that worldly people say, if witnesses listen to that, that's listening to the voice of strangers. So all of this is a really extreme in-group, out-group thing, where everybody outside the group is a foreigner. And they view themselves as foreigners to the
Our
rest of the
daily
world.
choices show that we do not belong to this world or seek its protection.
Notice the grind
We are
set.
residents of God's
Petey
kingdom.
boy from the Bible.
Peter reminds us to be different. For instance, we are different because of our view of material things. Materialism, a fleshly desire, has affected people around us, and many would sacrifice everything for material things.
No, I just don't buy that at all. I think that's just so not true. I haven't met very many materialistic people in my life who are only happy when they're buying things, really. And that's true inside Jehovah's Witnesses and out. This is just a cartoonish stereotype that they paint. I mean, like, absolutely, there are greedy bastards out there, and that's the appeal of MAGA is we're going to make us all greedy bastards. Elect our greedy bastard who's famous for being a con man and bankrupting a casino and getting away with all this shit. And we swear to God, he won't fuck you over. You know, so that, like, mentality kind of appeals to some people, but I don't think that many would sacrifice everything for material things. I think most people just want stability and to not feel like they're one missed paycheck away from being out on the streets. And that's very different from being materialistic, but Jehovah's Witnesses don't want their members to think that everybody is, or most people's concerns are reasonable, and that having concerns about those things are reasonable because they think that Jehovah's Witnesses shouldn't be worried about those normal things in life either, because you're supposed to throw your burden on Jehovah. So it's really weird. And, a lot of their members, increasingly where a lot of the growth is in impoverished countries where they don't have access to materials like that criticize Jehovah's Witnesses on the internet, or there's just not as much of a immune system built up against colonizing JW types. And so and a lot of those people are really impoverished, and they rely on their community and their culture. And then Jehovah's Witnesses kind of strip them of that community, replace it with the JW community, and still want every last dime from them. Even if you're in a refugee camp, you're supposed to paint a little JW.org sign and put your money in it. Blah. Blah, I say.
For example, many people are overly concerned about their financial future.
Fuck off.
While it's the course of wisdom to do some planning,
This is why our financial situation sucks. Like, this is why we were so financially illiterate and are, still struggling to figure that out in our life, is because we were raised with this mentality that you don't need to really worry about that so much, because really any day God could wipe out all your credit card debt, if you know what we're saying.
excessive worry about material needs later in life may cause some to put undue pressure on children and other family members to pursue a secular career. This is common in some cultures, and it can affect us if we are not careful. We might feel pressured to imitate others, and this could even affect our friendship with Jehovah, or...
Wait, what? We might feel pressure to what others? Oh, imitate others? Okay. Yeah, now he's getting gross. So, overly concerned with their financial future. I mean, I'm 100% concerned with my financial future, but that's because we're barreling towards a depression, and there's no end in sight of this, economic turmoil, and everybody's job is in jeopardy, but, my job is very dependent on tariffs, my day job, and my side gigs are really dependent on that. Everything I do outside of my day job is scraping together money, for artistic stuff like this channel. I don't know if this stream counts as art, maybe artistic stuff adjacent, but all that stuff's in jeopardy. So I do worry about that. And I agree that you can't worry too much, because there's only so much you can do when the king rules by decree. But it's also gaslighting to tell people that it's unnecessary to worry about this stuff because God is going to just take care of it any day. Because Jehovah's Witness leadership wants Jehovah's Witnesses to give them their money.
While it's the course of wisdom to do some planning, excessive worry about material needs later in life may cause some to put undue pressure on children and other family members to pursue a secular career. This is common in some cultures, and it can affect us if we are not careful. We might feel pressured to imitate others, and this could even affect our friendship with Jehovah, or what others in our family can do for him.
God, it's you becoming slightly less spiritual is an infection that spreads around. It's a really gross amount of mental pressure to put on somebody, that if you just want to go to seek higher education, even what if it was just purely for good reasons, just because you feel like you have some talent or passion in this area, you want to make the world a better place? No, why are you trying to make the world a better place? Don't you know it's going to be wiped out by God any day? And you got this guy telling you, nope, all that stuff's bullshit. Just go to meetings and do as much work for us as possible for free, and also give us most of your money. You're going to be making less and less money, and so more and more of it needs to go to us.
In the following interview, notice how parents living in such a culture chose to prepare for the future.
Hong Kong is an international city, and it is known for having high property prices.
What the fuck are we doing? I mean, I'm sorry, but I do not want to hear this. This is so boring. I don't want to watch stuff about property prices now. Okay, so they're having financial issues, but they had kids, and they didn't. Yeah, let me guess. They were very tempted to get better jobs, which would take them away from the congregation, but they were bullied by this white American sect into providing a worse upbringing for their
We
children.
saw how Jehovah blessed us. The amount
my
of money that we
recap.
earned was more than enough, and I felt cared for and provided
no-cap
for by
recap.
Jehovah. When my eldest son
I'm
told
sorry
me
I
that he
said
wanted
that.
to stop his current studies and start learning a construction trade, I was disappointed. I thought that even students who didn't do well could do that job,
Yep.
and that type of work would be physically harder for him.
But he explained to us that being a construction worker would be useful now and forever in the new world. I eventually respected his decision. We taught our children to put Jehovah first, but when it came to putting it into practice,
I know I'm kind of like, I might be stepping on some dicey ground here, but I don't know why the group does this. Chat, check me on this if I'm wrong. But it seems to me that they really rely on racial stereotypes within Jehovah's Witnesses. And in many of their videos, when they want to get across this point that you need to put the organization over your career and providing financially, they always cast Asian Jehovah's Witnesses to do it. Like that Wife of Lot drama comes to mind in this, and they do it elsewhere. I was just pulling a clip for a video that will be up tomorrow it was kind of the same thing. I was just looking for B-roll, like stuff to play in the background. I don't know why they do this, but I find it kind of weird. I just think it's why it betrays maybe not like a malicious racism, but just some really ingrained stereotypes that the leadership doesn't question, because who's going to tell them otherwise? Like, who's going to challenge them on it? They're the leaders of 8 million people, and if you catch them on a bad day when you criticize them, you might be demoted, kicked out of Bethel. Better
I
to
needed
keep
to
your mouth
respect the
shut.
decision made by my son. In order to make it possible for our whole family
Lot's
to come
wife,
here,
canonically
we needed
Asian
to
in the
simplify
Bible.
our lives.
That
During
might
family
be-
worship, we discussed ways to reduce expenses so that everyone in the family was on the same
Yep.
page. I noticed that we did not lack anything, and that the whole family could all share the burden of our expenses.
What about people who do lack things, though? Like, they say, like, we didn't lack for anything. I mean, when you think about it, they really do mean, and we would say this as witnesses, like food and shelter. They really mean like food, clothes, and shelter. And that is, I agree that those are the bare minimum, and that is everything you need. But most people don't want to, like, there's no reason to live like that in service of a group that is lying to you and ripping you off and is using your free labor for their selfish gain. It's gross.
Our children are now all grown up, and they willingly serve Jehovah. I am so grateful to Jehovah, because they have come to love him with their whole hearts.
We are all so happy. I am thankful to Jehovah every
Yeah.
time I see the smiling faces of my family.
That's what they do.
I have clearly felt that Jehovah always takes care of his servants. Like it says at Matthew chapter 6, verse 33, if we keep seeking first God's kingdom and his righteousness, Jehovah will take care of us. And if our prayers are according to God's will, and we try our best, he will undoubtedly bless our efforts.
I mean, I think it's probably true that a lot of, like, I don't know, my generations are getting mixed up in my head, my JW background. But a lot of immigrants who were Asian, it's like in my area that I was in growing up, seemed to immigrate specifically for education. But, like, not them, but their parents, right? Like the previous generation, like my parents' generation. And so it does feel like they're trying to address that. But it's just weird that they're kind of directing certain messages at certain racial groups.
Therefore, I have strong faith
Or
and
using
hope
racial
for our
groups to
future
get it
ahead.
across. A little odd.
Being different can be challenging. But wasn't it encouraging to see how this couple resisted cultural expectations and pressure?
Wow, cultural expectation. So, I mean, there you go. Look at this guy talking about cultural expectations. Creepy.
Instead, they agreed with their children's desire to pursue goals in Jehovah's Witness.
Christina said that just hearing like the bits and pieces of it from me are infuriating, and she's glad she's not watching
He
it.
supported them. Strengthening our friendship with Jehovah is the best preparation for tomorrow. And
No, it's not. they have literally no answer for just why some people starve to death and die homeless and alone. Like, why doesn't Jehovah take care of those people? Why do little babies die? Why? They don't have an answer for that. And they would be very annoyed if you brought it up, but they don't have an answer. But it just cannot be true that if you are a good Jehovah's Witness, all of your needs will be met. That just can't possibly be true, because there are people who they do that and it doesn't work. They just don't put it in their videos, obviously. No me gusta.
And whether Jehovah ultimately uses children to care for their parents or
What?
provides help in another way.
Whether Jehovah uses his children to care for their parents. Like, whoa, what? Like, your decision, like, if my decision to take care of my parents, it's like Gaius Glockenstein is saying you kind of got to put that in God's hand. And I think he's saying that because a lot of circuit overseers face a certain moral dilemma where, you know, these are traveling regional managers for Jehovah's Witnesses, basically, and they're supposed to be on the road all the time, and they will have aging parents like all of us at some point, and so some feel like they should come off the road and take care of their parents, and some feel like they should put Jehovah first and stay in the field. And that really shouldn't be any kind of moral quandary, because being a circuit overseer is volunteer work that is beneficial to your own ego at best in reality, but they don't live in reality. So they once again create this fake problem. And from the group standpoint, like from the governing body standpoint, it would be perfectly acceptable for a circuit overseer to not take care of their aging parent. So they want members to feel like, well, if my kid is super spiritual and he puts me in a home while he goes and plays dress up as a corporate spy, then that's fine. That's God's decision, really. I think this should be the face I use for the thumbnail, by the way.
Jehovah will stick to his promise to care for us. To be fully equipped for tomorrow, we set our hope with gratitude on our God, the God we trust. In this discussion, did you
Our
find that
God.
you are already doing these things?
Why do they do that? Because they only believe there is one God to begin with. The Bible's very polytheistic, the Old Testament in particular. And I feel like that is still kind of built into the lingo of Jehovah's Witnesses, because they'll just refer to certain things like greed as the god of this world, and they're like, or you know, Satan's the god of this world. And so our God, Jehovah, is different from the world's god, Satan.
Likely so. Therefore, we do not have any reason to be overly anxious or fearful about future trials or other uncertainties.
Ooh.
We face...
Very good comment, in my unbiased opinion from my wife. When I was a JW, I thought I was culturally humble. Once I left, I realized that even this is fake, especially when you're going into people's homes and cultures and telling them their culture is wrong. Yeah, I felt that same kind of embarrassment. And so, you know, now I try and just have a little... some people say I'm the most humble person in the world.
the future with
Some people say that.
confidence, because we are fully equipped for tomorrow. We are also fully equipped for
What a
the ministry.
pause. What a pause at even 1.4 speed. You know I'm going to have to throw together a little awkward silent supercut of this at some point.
We have the tools and training we need to reach all kinds of people, even those who are not religious. How can we preach to people like that more effectively? We'll learn in this episode of Eye-Ren Sharpens Eye-Ren.
Hello, I am Akihiro.
He really hit the Eye-Ren on that one. I mean, he's not wrong, but it is, right? I mean, here in Ohio we say iron, not Eye-Ren. Like Byron
And
Donaldson.
this is Iron Sharpens Iron.
These are the creepiest videos. It's so strange. Reaching the hearts of non-religious people. Just every interaction that you have with every demographic of human needs to have a strategy, a little marketing strategy in your head. Weird. I am morbidly curious about this. And it's dubbed.
Have you ever been in the ministry, and just as you're starting a conversation, the individual stops you and says, "I'm not religious"?
No.
How did you react? Did you freeze up? Unsure of what to say? I know it's happened to me. In this episode of Iron Sharpens Iron, we're going to discuss 3 tips to help us reach the hearts of...
I think the idea of Iron Sharpens Iron is like, hey, we're just from one door-to-door preacher to another. This isn't some hierarchy thing. We're just helping each other out. Here's some tips. Here's some tips from one of our circuit overseers we were talking about earlier. Our yes men.
Non-religious people. But what comes to your mind when you hear the word non-religious? You might assume this means the person doesn't believe in God. But the truth
Very
is
true,
that
Sam.
although the person may not belong to an organized religion, they might
Eye-Ren
very well have a belief in
sharpens
God
AA.
or in a higher power. So we don't want to make assumptions. Lesson 9 of our brochure.
Yeah, Jehovah's Witnesses are great about not making assumptions about people. Love people, make disciples, or else should be the end of that book title. Are we going to get to see a wonderful demonstration? Okay.
Many crazy things happening in the world right now.
No. I want to get the full cringe. I want to get the full effect of what this is supposed to be like.
You know...
Oh, wait, we should see what the tips are. Okay, how can we improve our skills? Be positive, listen with understanding, share information that addresses their needs. This is so sneaky. There's no other word for it. There simply isn't. So, what's the creepy JW demeanor? I would say it's this, in a way, right? Like, the detached way that witnesses talk is sort of like, be positive, even if you're not really feeling positive. Listen with understanding, which is that kind of like condescending, like, this is how you listen with understanding is, oh, okay. And then share information that addresses their needs. It's just sort of like, have a little database or a little Rolodex of common JW articles or videos on the website that you could show them. And so that's really it. All of that preamble, that Eye-Ren sharpening the Eye-Ren was for this. But now we'll get to see it pay off in what is sure to be a very natural conversation with a non-religious person.
Share information that addresses their needs.
Share information that
Now-
addresses their needs. I'm talking like a normal human being. You should follow my example when you try and convert people to our normal religion where people talk like normal human adults.
Let's see how we can apply these tips.
You know, with so many crazy things happening in the
So many
world
crazy
right
things.
now, a lot of people feel like world peace is an impossible dream. What's your opinion?
So natural so far.
If this is about religion, I'm not interested.
Why did that guy read? Why did the dub guy read it so bad? Like, was the original performance bad, so the guy who did the dub felt like he had to also be bad? Did Bozo do the dub? If this is about religion, I'm not interested. Just like the most cold, awkward AI-sounding voice.
If this is about religion, I'm not interested.
Why? Why?
Everyone is free to believe what he wants.
What was that? What was that? Everyone is free. That actually kind of sounded like AI, did it not?
Everyone is free to believe what he wants.
Is that a person? I'm a person and my name is Anakin. But who's this person?
What is important is not a bunch of rules and rituals, but believing in God from our hearts. That's my opinion.
Awesome. Okay, so I nailed it. This is the condescending nod elder face that we talk about on the channel sometimes. And so she's going to be faux listening, when all she's really doing is just being like, ooh, okay, he said this, so I can go to this thing from the reasoning book. Boomer reference. I can go to this thing from the teaching toolbox on the JW Library app.
I agree. Believing in God from our heart is very important. If you don't mind, may I ask you why you're not interested in religion?
Why did they make it like this? The silence and birds chirping in the background, like, it makes it feel more creepy. It's so slow. It's so eerie and quiet, and they don't talk like humans. Oh, Great. May I ask you why you don't like religion? Well, everyone is free to do what they want. However, I had a bad religion with experience in the past. Fail.exe. I don't know.
I
don't know how
used to
computers
belong
work.
to a religion. And the hypocrisy I saw just completely turned me off.
I'm so sorry you experienced that.
Beep bop energy.
I can understand why you feel the way you do.
I can understand why you feel that way.
If
This is demented. I don't think so. They're talking so slow that by the time they reach the end of their sentence, I forget what the beginning of it was. So it's like I'm being hypnotized.
religion cannot be of much help, but you do
Yeah.
have reliable guidance during these tough times.
This is 1.6.
Well,
That was so long. That was a long pause for 1.6 speed.
Did you see how well our sisters put our first 2 tips into practice?
I did not see
Our
that.
sisters maintained a positive spirit, even after the householder told them he...
Now think about this. This is the good example. This is how Jehovah's Witnesses are being trained to speak. So if they come to your door and talk really robotically and have this fake, positive, condescending energy, it's because this has been drilled into their brains. They're told over and over, this is good. This is the good example of what a good Jehovah's Witness does. And it's the creepiest, most inhuman thing you've ever seen.
He wasn't interested
And
in
most JWs aren't like this, by the way. They're more natural.
This gave the householder the opportunity to speak and allowed our sisters to apply our second tip: listen with understanding.
Whoa.
They listened as the man expressed
I think I
himself.
just got a
That allowed them to
Latin
understand where he was coming from and then to respond
super chat?
empathetically and keep the conversation going. But
Okay, I'm going to have to
what if
Google
you meet
Translate
someone who
that.
doesn't
I have it
believe
set
in God at
aside.
all? Let's take a look.
Yeah, these these demonstrations have limited use because unless somebody at the door says that exact same thing, it's not really helpful to you. It just always so happens that I used to be in a religion, but I don't think there really is a religion that really serves the Bible. And okay, so now I'm curious to see what they say to this person who doesn't believe in God at all.
It's a beautiful season, isn't it? I love the lavender.
No, I want to hear the weirdness. So we can hear that at normal speed.
Let's take a look.
It's a beautiful season, isn't it? I love the lavender. So beautiful.
Oh, yeah, I love it too. The color is lovely, isn't it?
What is this? This is so bad. This has the pacing of one of those PBS kids cartoons where the budget is like $80 so the characters barely move and the dialogue is really slow and there's long spaces between everything. Like that's what this feels like to me, except it's for adults and they're telling you this is how you, an adult, should talk to other adults. The other thing that's really hitting me right now is that the example for women is always to compliment flowers. If you're at somebody's house, compliment their garden. If you're in a park, which you should be because parks are a good place to go witnessing, talk about the flowers there. Women be shopping. There's always grocery store examples, and women be knowing about flowers. To cite the old expression.
It is.
I love the lavender.
To me, flowers are like an amazing gift from God.
Wow. Well, she's clearly nailing it so far. I'm gonna... Okay, what's 2x speed? Because this is crazy slow.
Have you ever wondered if there is a God?
A god? Well, it would be nice if there were.
That's 2x speed, and that was a normally paced sentence.
Well, it would be nice if there were.
It would be nice if there were. Yeah, that's how a normal person would say that. Now let's get the same effect at 1x speed. This is the kind of important data collection that we do at All Orly Industries. This is what we're adding to the scene.
Well, it would be nice if there were.
That's normal speed! Not slow motion. This isn't important, but also it's the most important thing in the world to me right now.
But I don't believe in God.
Many feel the same way you do. If you don't mind me
Right,
asking,
like this isn't how they
I wonder
talk
how some
outside of
people
this
do
one
believe in
video.
Honestly, I have. But I haven't found a reasonable answer.
Once again, our sister maintained a positive spirit and wasn't put off by the woman stating that she doesn't believe in God.
Wait, okay, I was distracted by that. Okay, so the answer was, have you ever wondered why some believable, holy shit. I need to go down to 1x speed, sorry. I was cycling through those settings. Let me get back to 1x. I talk slow too, by the way, because of my JW background. So the question is, have you ever wondered why some people do believe in God? And apparently this atheist has really never been able to crack the code on this.
Some people do believe in God? Honestly, I have. But I haven't found a reasonable answer.
What if she had said, well, I think that belief in God is really a shortcut to dealing with difficult things in life. It's harder to deal with the fact that we're all going to die and that we might have to just make the most of this life because we might never see our loved ones again. So we just have to live this life to the fullest. And so I think that people who do kind of take these shortcuts using magical thinking just haven't really let themselves process what good evidence looks like. What if she had some really elaborate answer? What if she was just like, well, I mean, do you believe in Santa Claus? What if she had done some real street epistemology stuff on this lady? Like, Jehovah's Witnesses are not prepared for that. They're only prepared for somebody who is so casually atheist that they just haven't even been able to figure out anything about why somebody might believe in God.
Once again,
Weird.
Our sister maintained a positive spirit and wasn't put off by the woman stating that she doesn't believe
Many
in God.
little hmms.
Instead, she sought further understanding by asking a simple yet genuine question. Have you ever wondered why some people do believe in God? Did you see how the woman...
Yeah, this is the other thing, is like, we're watching this now. So now, like, any XJW who's talked to a witness kind of knows exactly how to get the person into their script so that you can throw them off a little bit. Not for like a mean reason, but because it's easy to know when you're an ex-Jehovah's Witness, what did you never think about as a witness? What are the kind of questions that I was never asked at the door that I wish somebody had pressed me on? And so that is my advice to any non-JWs who want to, have a productive conversation with a Jehovah's Witness at their door or at a cart, is it would not be don't be confrontational at all, but do ask them questions that are sincere, like your sincere questions. And if something doesn't seem right to you, like if something seems weird, say that. Because a lot of times people are too polite to say that. Like if the blood transfusion thing upsets you, be respectful. You could say that. And I think a lot of witnesses just don't hear that. They don't hear the good faith criticisms because, generally speaking, in my experience at the door, people were either really mean or they were polite and humoring me. And it was pretty rare you got a sincerely interested person. But it was even rarer that I had a genuinely cool and interesting conversation with somebody who was, meaningfully pushing back on what I said. And I always really enjoyed that as a witness because you're cosplaying as this rhetorical genius all the time who can answer any question because you have the truth, but you're never actually put in a situation where you have those conversations a lot. So that's what I would say. Wait. Christina says he does talk slow. I'm always interrupting him when we're talking because his pauses seem like the end of his thought. It's true. And my dad does the same thing. And we it's so bad. Like, I've just turned into my dad, but we would be sitting around the dinner table looking, is he done talking or is he pausing? And yep, we all become our parents.
I did say that I'm a terrible interrupter.
No. You're great at interrupting. Did you see how the woman relaxed?
When she realized that the sister was actually interested in understanding her and was...
Oh, yeah. Why is that good? This is fake. What if that doesn't happen in real life? Now you've just screwed them. They don't have anything useful.
To continue the conversation? Now, if the person is willing to talk and the opportunity arises, we can apply our third tip. Share information that addresses their needs. With our last householder, what do we have in our library of publications that we could share with her? We could share one of the brochures in our teaching toolbox that addresses creation. Or...
Oh, wow. So this has come up recently on an... I don't remember who the guest was when we talked about it, but they haven't updated... Maybe it was a caller, actually, which we need to do that this week. Let's make sure we put a pin in that. I've been missing the call-in show. That's been so fun. Well, first of all, this person says, and this is Eric 67. If I don't know your name, I'll sing an attempt. Is that a fair compromise? Eric 67. I have never had an actual conversation at a door in 30 years, not once. I was just selling mags and books. And I kind of feel the same way. Like, I do remember maybe twice where I had real conversations where, and they were both with atheists, I think. No, we had an interesting... My mom had a Bible study who was genuinely, undeterred in her questioning. Like, she would not accept the pat answers, and so it was interesting to go on those studies. And actually, the thing that made the biggest impact on me was a Bible study I went on with my dad a lot. This was an older guy who was so sweet and nice, and he did... He clearly thought there was some value in believing in God because he was of that generation. But this guy was probably in his 70s or 80s. And we went through the entire Bible Teach Book with him. I did the study myself a couple times, conducted the study. But then I was there with my dad when we got to the last chapter, and you're supposed to kind of ask, hey, do you want to continue this? Because this is the point where we usually say, put up or shut up. Piss or get off the pot. That's not how we put it as witnesses, but that's what you're supposed to do. Like, if they don't want to continue to the next phase, the next book, and start going to meetings, then you got to cut it off, because maybe they're just stringing you along, and maybe they'll fill you with some apostate ideas. That's not how they put it to JWs, but the guy said, I just haven't been able to get over my central thing with the Bible, which is violence. There's just so much violence in it. And I just don't understand how... even if it was justified, why would that be in the Bible? I can't justify that. I can't think of exactly what he said, but it really stuck with me, because I was like, I have no answer to this. How could I can't justify violence in the Bible. That bothers me too. And so I think if you bring up a genuine concern of yours in a tactful way, that will stick with a witness way more than an irate householder, which I had dozens of, but I can't remember any of them specifically. Falling Tower said, had a convo with my girlfriend this weekend on a surprise encounter with another ex-JW I know, and we talked about how crazy it is our friends and family are still subject to this crap every week. Yeah, I know. It's really wild. I've been, I haven't uploaded to the main channel in a while, although that's will be changing soon. And it's really because I needed a break from this stuff, and it is really weird, especially when the annual things come around, and I'm like, oh God, another one of those. What's the point? It makes me sad to think that they're actually, that they're sitting down and watching this and trying to convince themselves that it's great and they're getting something out of it. And that's what they're doing on their evening together instead of going out on a date or something. It's a little sad. Oh, hello!
I brought 2 gifts in here.
Oh my God, we have gifts. There are gifts, and I'm trying to... There we go. Thank you so much.
Aww.
My wife brought me a cup of coffee, which is so wonderful. And she brought a Peach! A special surprise Peach. Peach is the dog!
Not the Peach!
Oh, and she's so sleepy.
I just woke her up from
She's
a nap.
Sleepy and camera shy. Peach, don't be embarrassed.
There's no reason to be embarrassed about what we're going to discuss.
Now, Peach is on my coffee mug. You can see a little...
I got that for my birthday.
Yeah. Did I get that for you, or did you get that for you?
No, one of my coworkers got it for me.
Oh, man. That's a good coworker. I should have got her something like that. But yes, it's a really cute mug. And oh my God, Peach, just the best. How are you doing, by the way? How are you doing these days?
Oh, I'm good. I'm on summer break, so.
She's on summer break. One step closer to dominating the school.
Couldn't have said it better myself. In fact, that's why I didn't.
Now we're just hearing an animal meow. How could I forget?
Our spiritual paradise is a place that has many harmless animals.
Now, what do we mean by this?
I love you, and I'm responding to this comment. I'll respond to as many comments as you want, Falling Tower.
Man, I should do that. I'll just take a page out of Falling Tower's book there.
Oh.
Okay. Oh, bye, Peach. Bye.
Her face. She does have the best laugh. I tell her that all the time.
Oh my gosh.
Brings me such joy. It truly is. Okay, anyway.
Mommy, when I get out, call me Sammy.
I'm sorry. Somebody's in the comments. We make good parents, and I had to play that. All right, now we'll get back. I was going to say something about what the hell this guy was talking about.
They are available in your
I'm
language.
certain it didn't
A video
matter.
from the series, was it designed? Or
Oh, the
influenced
was
from
it
the
design
original?
thing. Yeah, they haven't updated
let's
their
make our goals
evolution stuff at all recently. Oh, I think it was Ben Coppola in the interview I did with him. You were talking about that. Like, they haven't updated their evolution things since those came out. And those came out in, like, 2012 or something, like 2013. They're old, but it's because the more scientific evidence comes out, the less sense intelligent design makes. Whereas the only thing that religious groups like Jehovah's Witnesses and Answers in Genesis can do is just come up with novel, new excuses to ignore scientific evidence. So there's really no need for them to update their publication there, because it's going to be the same excuses either way you slice
More
it.
familiar with all the tools Jehovah has given us. Every year, there are non-religious people who become Jehovah's Witnesses. So we have reason to be positive when we speak to those not interested in religion. And as we listen with understanding, and when appropriate, share information that addresses
Oops,
their
sorry, I'm
needs,
slurping.
we will be doing our best to reach the hearts of non-religious people. These tips have helped me in my ministry.
Oh, good.
And as iron sharpens iron.
Well, he's
I
such a
hope that
natural speaker. He did make it all the way to the to the broadcast. Never underestimate the hearts of our neighbors, whom we will convert.
Estimate how the hearts of our neighbors can be
I know
moved
he's
when we
like
listen to them with
Dutch
empathy
or something.
and show we really care. Even those who seem unlikely to listen to our message can be touched by God's word and the genuine love we show. That's exactly what happened to a young man named Lucas Lacra. Here is his story.
Lucas Lacra. Somebody said I should be a country music singer. Lucas Lacra in the movie that we're gonna watch on the show. I can't sing sincerely, but I can sing in a fake voice.
I was a bully. I used to steal from others.
A bully.
And I was very, very angry.
Okay, this I think we might need to just add as maybe not a necessary ingredient to your JW recipe, but this is kind of the Parmesan cheese of like a JW broadcasting spaghetti, where like, yeah, you don't necessarily need Parmesan cheese, but most people want a little Parmesan on there. And what I mean by that is, what if I just didn't explain that and just moved on? What I mean by that, in this great analogy I've come up with right now, is that the Parmesan cheese, the JW broadcasting recipe, is a violent person stopped being violent when they joined Jehovah's Witnesses, or in some other way emphasizing that, like, in the world, people are just violent and on drugs constantly. And so I just find this so interesting, because I think there is a lot of pent-up rage and anger when you're in Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, that's a natural reaction to suppressing emotions, and you have to suppress a lot of things when you're a Jehovah's Witness. You see injustice in the world, and you're not really able to do anything except for preach, but increasingly that's not very effective. You are sometimes made fun of or yelled at in the ministry. And so there are reasons to be angry, of course, and then some people just have anger issues, because some people have anger issues. And but it seems like they go out of their way to show that violent people become Jehovah's Witnesses because they have a problem. And I don't really know what to make of that. It's weird, though. It's a weird thing they emphasize. I guess it helps them from their point of view of, like, making the world seem scary, and, like, the world is going to violently turn against Jehovah's Witnesses, which, it is really kind of fucked up. And this is one of the things, like, I've talked the last couple of weeks about how the first Trump administration is really kind of one of the things that woke me up. And it was because, like, the Christian right-wing people were in control and making minorities out of other people, right? Like, they wanted to take away trans rights and stuff. That was happening even then. And so it felt kind of fucked up to try and make ourselves seem like we were the oppressed group, when at best we're one of many as Jehovah's Witnesses. And so I think that this just plays into that narrative of like, the world really is a violent place. They really do hate you. But you know what? Your preaching is not in vain, because some of these violent monsters become your brothers and sisters.
Inside, I had feelings of taking revenge. I wanted revenge. I spent my childhood in a small...
Christina said maybe they find an opportunity to like conceal their actions in a better way, or like work through their anger in a different way. I mean, I think that is probably what's happening, is you're just channeling it into this
city of India
attitude.
My family was very poor. My parents both had the habit of drinking.
Really
Often they had
hardcore environment where
my
you're
father would beat my mother with
working all the time.
And sometimes he would beat us too. So me and my siblings, we would run and hide to the outside toilets, and we would wait there until the shouting and fighting would stop. One day, I saw my father. He was full drunk.
Drunk, alcoholism, that comes up all the time. Basically every experience they show of somebody who converted was violent or came from a violent home. Their parents were alcoholics, or they were alcoholics because their parents were alcoholics. Like, they always just have what scam artists would call the perfect mark. You know, like, when do cults succeed the most? When it's when they find you at your lowest. Like, they are looking for people who are looking for a shortcut, who are looking for an easy answer to their overwhelming problems. A lot of times that answer is just as simple, like, it's community. They need a community. And a cult is a shortcut to a community. And they will kind of rally behind their own, if you're in a nice congregation. Kind of depends on your area. But I think that's why these are so common, is because increasingly it's not like sensible, skeptical people who had full informed consent of what Jehovah's Witnesses are up to join the group. Those kinds of people don't join Jehovah's Witnesses. They have to be either ignorant of the group's crimes and ethical problems, or they have to be unaware of them but okay with like some of the bigotry that they perpetuate. There's just a shrinking demographic of people who are going to join anyway, and that's kind of what my next the video's about. Stay tuned.
I was very small, maybe
the video's about,
and I was playing near the house. My uncle came to the house screaming at my father. I ran to see what was happening, but there was nothing I could do.
No, that came through to me. I think I just said
my father was murdered. Later, I was taken away from my mother to work as a servant. They treated me terribly, with punches and kicks. They even strangled me once. I missed my mother.
Hey, none of this has to do... obviously this is very sad, but this happens to lots of people who don't become Jehovah's Witnesses, and they become thriving individuals later in life. And so it's a little weird that they try and make this seem like it can only happen because of Jehovah, because of course that's not true. It's a little disrespectful. And also, none of this has to do with whether the religion is true, because you can find similar stories of people joining the Mormon church, and Jehovah's Witnesses don't think that they have the truth. I'm going to skip past this because I'm like, I get it.
This is how learning the truth really is life-changing. Even feelings of intense anger and revenge can give way to real peace of mind. Like Lucas, all of us appreciate the way Jehovah teaches us to deal with difficulties in life, including in our family life.
Yeah, but like, it's kind of interesting that he said that, anger and revenge, because that is the appeal of believing that God is your vengeance. I mean, I think that's why that message that Trump had was not off-putting to a certain group of people. Like, he knew that that accurately spoke to this bizarre narcissistic grievance that a lot of people have, that, and they need vengeance on all these people that they hate, like immigrants and trans people, or people in their lives who criticize them for being a MAGA supporter. And so Trump is their vengeance. And that's an appealing concept. I'm not a violent person, but God's going to be violent for me and destroy all my enemies because they have it coming, and we tried to warn them. That's the totalist mentality that Alexandra Stein talks about in Terror, Love, and Brainwashing. When I start talking about books, I think I should have to talk in a snooty accent to keep things, keep myself in check.
Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you and your mate just don't see things the same way?
Nope.
If so, you're not alone.
Never.
And you'll appreciate the suggestions in this episode of For a Happy Marriage.
Oh boy. Nobody tell Christina this is a marriage video. I want to get some tips I can use.
You found that special someone.
there was a glare on the screen, and I couldn't see the rest of this guy's shirt. And for a second, I thought he was wearing, like, what's the better word for a wife beater? Because I don't know, like, just like an undershirt. I thought that's what he was wearing, and I was like, damn, they don't usually show, like, guns in these JW videos.
You can't believe how compatible you are. Yet you soon discover that compatible...
Conventionally attractive wife. Whoa. The 2x speed badminton's really funny. I forgot that we were playing it quite so fast. I am losing track of what they're saying. I can't listen to things that fast.
Compliments, not competitors. A compliment
I should make an edit of this.
Another may lack.
I'm just whacking
this means your differences can strengthen your marriage.
Or the shuttlecock, I'm sorry. I believe it's called the shuttlecock in badminton. Cock.
Still, with two imperfect people...
With two imperfect people, you never know if you're going to agree on which groceries to get, or whether you can afford a coat that you see in the mirror when you're window shopping. Oh no, it's 300
They don't
quid.
have to become arguments.
It's 96 pence.
If the two of you don't see a matter in the same way, for example, how to manage
Oh,
money,
buddy boy.
what should you do?
Are you jealous of the attention?
Should you insist until you get your way?
They live in it, as always, they live in this beautifully furnished apartment that looks, you know, frankly nicer than this one. And if they're doing everything right, they're both working part-time in sanitation somewhere. Tank top. Sleeveless gross tee is what it's called. Okay. The shuttle mitten in the Badcock. I agree. Have you tried voice acting? People always ask that, and I would love to, but I have literally no idea how. And, you know, it's hard to start a new career later in life. Just tell somebody that they can email me if they want me to be a voice actor. For money. The Joker taught us that if you're good at something, never do it for free.
Should you insist until you get your way?
A little off my game today. I can acknowledge that. Wow.
Say
She just
nothing
had to
at
go
all.
and buy those goddamn coats.
There is a better way to work through the occasional difference before it becomes a conflict.
I hate this. That's always what they do, is foresee the calamity and conceal yourself. Which is a way of blaming you, because it's like, you know, if you had done this right, you just would have avoided it altogether to begin with. Next time, don't have an argument. Just prevent it by doing all these little tips we're going to give you. Which, yeah, you should avoid getting in arguments, but they always just make it seem like your fault. And, you know, I'm not going to say anything about that guy. I almost did.
A Bible principle states, let each one keep seeking, not his own advantage, but that of the other person.
Listen,
you may need to set
if they really just need a generic white guy to do voices in movies, like, I'll do it for a fraction of the price. I'll do, what did he do, Garfield? Did he do Garfield? I mean, I know he did Mario. He did the Lego guy. If you just need some guy, yeah, you know what? We like talked back and forth on Twitter, and then I don't have Twitter anymore, so I lost touch with him. That's a good point. Garfield and Mario.
Set
What a
aside your
Chad.
shared point of view and really try to see
What a
the
cool
value
guy
of
with
your
cool
own
religious
perspective. Remember, seek his or her advantage, not your own.
Remember.
Take each issue.
Damn,
one at a
okay,
time.
so you're still
You
going
may be
to
able
very
resolve
fancy
most of your
restaurants.
differences and meet in the middle. With
We haven't been to a restaurant like this since we had wedding money, like wedding, like gift envelopes.
practice, you will learn to tackle your disagreements.
What do you call that?
Not each other.
A wedding card? A gift?
This is a skill you will work at for a lifetime, since we all change as we age.
He kind of looks like Canadian Kendall from Succession. What's that actor's name? Something. I think his name
For
is
example,
something.
what if your viewpoints differ on how to care for aging parents?
Remember, have tea with the Queen.
An afternoon tea? Well, Well, we live in Columbus, Ohio. If you want to go to get afternoon tea, you go to Bob Evans.
Start with your common ground. In addition to the financial cost, consider the cost to your time, health, and relationship with each other and with God. Recognize the merits of your spouse's viewpoint.
Jeremy Strong. Man,
and
my referenceometer is
cannot
broken
be solved
today.
by a mutual compromise.
Couldn't think of Don Pardo, couldn't think of Jeremy Strong.
For your friendship. You might also agree to discuss the question again at a later date.
Again?
Or if circumstances change.
Discuss it again, would you
Even if
please?
you don't always agree, you could still work as a team.
Work as a team over tea and crumpets.
Your horizons.
I'm sorry.
Your marriage.
That's a borderline racist impression. Okay, I can't even pretend to care about that. Oy vey, Harold Corcoran. I mean, we're struggling to get through this anyway. But these are usually where they hide the cultiest things, and I've mistakenly skipped past them before. So let's listen to Harry Corker
highlights the
for a minute.
importance of consoling.
Harry
Which
Corker.
basically conveys the idea to soothe.
Corker, I barely knew her, says Christina. Very good.
It also encourages us to support the weak. And the basic meaning of that expression, support the weak, is to hold fast
Thanks,
to,
love. I appreciate
cleave
it.
to
Appreciate.
the person that's needing assistance. By doing that, we're certainly imitating
Tea and crumpet pass.
Psalm 34:18, it says, Jehovah is close to the brokenhearted. He's right there.
He's close
He
to the
saves those
brokenhearted.
who are crushed in spirit. He lifts up those who are depressed. Well, what can help us to imitate Jehovah to the best of our ability in consoling, supporting, and doing all that with patience? Well, one thing that will certainly help is the relationship between the one giving the assistance and the one receiving it.
Hey, I mean, my YouTube poop editor brain is going right now. We have the one giving it and the one receiving it. If we can get like kind of sentence spliced together, him saying "but" or "anal" or something, you know, we've really got something. Then we've got a stew going.
If there's friendship there, it makes a big difference. Because the one receiving the help...
I'm trying to kind of grow the channel up
They may
and
have
bring in
something
new
very
viewers.
sensitive to talk about. And doing so with a true, trusted friend makes it a lot easier. And the one rendering the assistance, if he's a friend, then it doesn't come across...
Oh,
like
he
he's
does
intimidating
have droopy
or
energy for
investigating
sure.
something. But rather,
Wait, what?
He's showing genuine interest.
Okay.
Well, building up an understanding of the background of each other certainly helps, doesn't it?
We have to build up the background so we don't get a stumble in the congregation.
Oh, that wasn't very good. I'm gonna have to
That's what
think. I'm
friends
gonna have
do.
to pray on Droopy.
We understand a lot about that person, don't we? For example, what could build up our desire to be consoling, to be supportive, and to do it with patience? The background. Here are just a few examples of background that can motivate us to do just what our text says today. Here they are. Did they grow up in a dysfunctional family? Was one of their parents an alcoholic?
Look at this.
Did the mother or father abandon them when they were young? Did a beloved family member turn against the truth and is now a bitter opposer?
Whoa. So that's the same. That's the same. Because that last one is me. So the examples are...
Here they are. Did they grow up in a
growing up in a dysfunctional family, which of course the Jehovah's Witness family could never be.
Dysfunctional family? Was one of their parents
having an alcoholic parent, which, you know, I can neither confirm nor deny, quite frankly.
Did the mother or father abandon?
Abandoning your mother, like being abandoned by your mother and father when you're young. Maybe they're saying that because I was abandoned by my mother and father when I was older, and so it's okay.
Abandon them when they were young? Did a beloved family member turn against the truth?
Because
and
now
a
this is,
bitter opposer?
that's them. That's what's going on
There
with
could
my
be many
parents.
other reasons. But such background gives us not only the desire to help, but the willingness and the ability to do it in a way that will be most helpful. Now, one thing we have to keep in mind about the variety of things that require assistance is based on something that's said in Romans chapter 8 and verse 22.
Right.
And we invite you to open your Bibles there. Romans chapter 8 and verse 22.
Whoa!
And this will help us to appreciate...
My goodness. Erica Slams Extra 7. $50 will absolutely get you a song. Thank you so much. I've got to run and enjoy the stream. Take the wife out to dinner. Oh my god, you're too kind. What a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful gift from whatever the opposite of God is, which is a flaming skull named Eric and Slay 67. That's very kind. Thank you so much, sir.
That regardless of the problem there is a common reason for it. Romans 8:22.
Okay, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. I want to see if they talk more about me. I like it when they talk about me on the stream. A bitter opposer. The pain and groaning. Okay, all right. So we can definitely, I'll just tell you right now as an editor, if he's saying pain, I can make him say anal, because I've got the ain, and I just need an ol somewhere. And you just splice that together. And the fact that we have pain and groaning, I'm having ideas. There are those kind of like those word clouds. Those are forming.
As descendants of Adam's, can manifest itself in physical ailments, like heart trouble, diabetes, cancer, or others.
He just listed off a bunch of
limited
ailments,
to
which
physical
could be
ailments.
funny to use.
Emotional and mental issues also arise.
Not a bad day's work if you can get it.
And so just as we had never looked down or condemned someone who had a physical ailment,
But a singing butcher, you know? A butcher who is singing all the while.
we would never want to do that with someone that's going through an emotional issue, such as depression or another mental illness.
Now, hang on a second. I have a chronic illness and was dealing with a extreme physical ailment at the time. And I have anxiety and depression and was suicidal. And I was shunned by my parents. Are they on the hook for that at all? I'm saying this, but honestly, I really don't feel like they should be on the hook. They know not what they've done because they've been indoctrinated. But it just goes to show the double standard. They, like people in cults, they still have all these emotions, but they have to be told how to contextualize them and turn themselves into this victim, constantly oppressed, who has the truth, and people are mad at you because you have the truth, and the truth is what's causing you to be off-putting to them because they're living a lie, and that's what it is. You know, and that's why the cult exists, and why all cults exist, is to provide excuses for the group.
And one of the things that we want to do for those, regardless of what their needs may be, is to use the scriptures.
Oh boy,
to be a good shepherd.
Back in the day, we had many more. We had many more viewers.
Elders, of course, have that responsibility to help everyone too.
But honestly, true.
But
Adjusting
now,
for inflation, we're doing just fine.
We're trying to help, and it's
By
recorded.
inflation, I mean the decline of Jehovah's Witnesses. That I was going for an analogy. It didn't make sense.
In Proverbs chapter 12 and verse 18.
It's recorded. This is a recording.
Turn there.
Proverbs is a documentary full of recordings.
We want to console. We do not want to hurt. Proverbs 12:18. Thoughtless speech is like the stabs of a sword, but the tongue of the wise is a healing. So our desire is...
You can only get that kind of thing from the Bible. Words that are mean hurt your feelings, but words that are smart make you feel smarter and better. And only God could have recorded such a thing, such wisdom.
Is to console, to support, to uplift, to cheer up, not to make the matter worse.
I think we can go 1.6.
Is a key.
That's what I think.
Just to illustrate how much pain can be caused if that's not
Whoa.
done. Notice the expressions of one of our Christian sisters who went through a period of depression.
You threw us a notice. Went through a period of depression. So I'm immediately skeptical of this as somebody who just has depression. And I take medicine for it every day. And I remember, I guess I probably had it for longer than, I remember it really hitting me in middle school. That's when it hit me really hard for the first time. And I felt different. And so, but and they acknowledge that depression exists. And if you talk to witnesses, talk to elders, they're aware of that. They know that there's a lot of depression and mental health issues within the group. But when they talk about experiences, they do frame it as this thing that you just have to snap yourself out of so that you can serve Jehovah more. And they want to do that because the reality is being a Jehovah's Witness is it's a pretty depressing thing. It will give you hardcore depression and anxiety. It gives you feelings of worthlessness. You're constantly told that you're dust and you deserve to be destroyed and you're getting God's undeserved kindness. And you are, even if it's subconsciously, you're aware of how precarious that relationship is because you know that if you step out of line, or maybe you already have, maybe you you're masturbating or viewing pornography or something, or you started smoking pot, now you're hiding this sin, and so it's just a ticking time ban. Time ban? I just saw the word ban in chat, and that's why that happened. A ticking time ban, as we call it.
One lesson I'll never forget. I learned empathy.
Oh, she was depressed, so she didn't have... She was in a period of depression, and that gave her empathy.
That all you had to do was to pump yourself up and get going. So I never had much fellow feeling for others who were sick.
She probably got that mentality from the organization.
Now I know. When some of the friends told me to snap out of it, there wasn't anything that I wanted to do more. But at that point, I had no control. Their comments really hurt.
Yeah.
And how sad.
How sad, but that's stuff that was said to them by the Watchtower, Bible and Tract Society. They're the ones who fostered that mentality in the group in the first place. They, up until very recently, were explicitly pro-psychology. They were very against seeing a therapist. And it's only in the last 3 or 4 years that they've changed that.
In an effort to help, we unintentionally...
A good-for-nothing slave, yes, absolutely. What a horrible phrase.
Speech. Well, we can consider these questions based on Bible principles.
Yeah, like I was diagnosed with PTSD.
True, kind, necessary? How would I feel if someone...
I told my parents that, or my mom anyway. Like, I think I texted her that once, and obviously she's never brought it up again, but I wonder how they feel about that, because I don't think they would have forgotten. I guess they're just like, probably just... They probably think of it like Tony Soprano's mom when she found out that her son's going to therapy. Like, he talks about his mother. I'm sure that's all he does is complain. When in reality, Tony's like very apologetic about his mom constantly. And so it's like, I think that they probably just tell themselves like, well, if some worldly therapist or psychologist diagnosed him with something because of Jehovah's Witnesses, that's just, you know, that's Satan's system of things. You can't trust that. You can only trust the validating things that a healthcare professional might say. Yeah. Dave K says, I always wondered why so many people were depressed, because we were the happiest people on earth and we had a hope for the future. That's the thing. And I think it's like, people have to get to a point where, like if they're in a high control group or a cult, people have to get to a point where they recognize that if nothing else, they will be equally depressed outside of the group. Like, they have to come to the conclusion that they are not happy and that the group is not going to be the thing that makes them happier. Like, once they start realizing that, I think they're in a position where they can change their minds. But, like, they kind of have to get there in their own brain before that change can take place. All right, anyway.
Someone said that to me. Will it show respect? Is this the right setting to even bring it up at all?
Does anybody say that to the governing body members before they give gross, weird talks about, like, what kind of pants you shouldn't wear and how you're gay if you wear a certain kind of pants? I could only think of the pants example.
To do healing rather than to inflict more pain. And in this connection, in helping depressed ones.
Depressed ones. Oh, good. We have a demographic now.
May pour out their feelings with great feeling and intensity. We listen. We offer encouragement. And then a short time later, they're back with the same intense feelings and concerns as if it had never been discussed before.
Wow. Depressed ones. Am I right? Depressed ones are always acting like that.
Patience is required to keep consoling and to keep supporting. In doing so, we would imitate Jehovah. At Lamentations 3:22 and 23, the Bible says about Jehovah.
For all you know, Jehovah's just constantly playing games on his phone every time you're praying to him, and he's like, okay. You don't know. What they interpret it as God listening to a prayer is just a good thing happens, or they perceive it as a good thing and then say, well, that must be God.
It is because of Jehovah's loyal love that we have not come to our finish. For his mercies never end. They are new each morning. Your faithfulness is abundant.
Yeah, very true.
Jehovah gives us help every day. And though it's not easy, we want to be just as patient and just as consoling and just as helpful as Jehovah. Well, after listening and offering thoughtful scriptural advice, the scriptures are powerful, but sometimes something more than that is needed.
That was a parenthetical. The scriptures are powerful. Or as Tony Moore says, words are powerful. That really weird quote. Words are powerful.
The scriptures are powerful, but sometimes something more than that is needed for someone who's depressed. Why do we say that?
Yeah, why? Why would that be the case? What's up with God? Is this like in the prequel era, how just the Jedi's ability to use the Force was diminished because they just allowed themselves to be so ensconced in politics that they lost sight of the fact that the Phantom Menace was right beneath their nose? Is that what happened?
5:31, Jesus said this.
To God?
Those who are healthy do not need a physician.
Whoa.
But those who are ill do.
Only Jesus could have said
Depression
something
may
like
not be
that.
because of some temporary disappointment or a temporary feeling of low or discouragement. It might be more clinical. It might have been inherited as part of a family trait or weakness.
Weakness. Don't say fucking weakness, by the way. I don't think I would be very encouraged by this talk if I was a witness. Like, it kind of started strong, but now the way he's framing this whole thing where depressed people are this burden and like, here's how you deal with those types. I don't like this. Prayers don't work during Sundays, sir. That's actually true. Unfortunately, your prayers will be impeded. They will not affect the congregation. The tariffs affected attendance negatively. Yeah, the attendance of the live streams is probably due to tariffs.
And scriptures alone, although very valuable, will not be all the help they need. In some cases.
But why would that be
medical
the
attention
case?
Is the course of wisdom, and perhaps.
Wouldn't that be incredible? Because that's in the Bible. When the Holy Spirit was poured out, which JWs depict in my favorite kind of picture, candles above their heads. I was obsessed with those pictures as a kid of the candles floating above people's heads. And, the video game Twilight Princess has little candles above people's heads if they're trapped in the Twilight realm. Just a little fun fact for you. Just a little information for free. Dropping spiritual gems here. But, the Holy Spirit was poured out, and the first century apostles or disciples or whatever, they were given gifts of healing and speaking in tongues. Like, they were able to do these things that demonstrated, like, hey, this is magic. This is only possible through God, right? But that's not what they do now. Like, Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in any of that stuff, probably because they're at least smart enough to know that they shouldn't, like, promise miracle healings when they aren't really set up for that. They're not really set up for the miracle healings. They're not willing to run that scam. So it's just like, but why? Like, why wouldn't God do that? Why does he... Like, that didn't have to be a part of this battle between Satan and Jehovah. It didn't have to be that, because at various times in human history, Jehovah allowed people to heal the sick and raise the dead. So why can't Jehovah's Witnesses perform miracles now? Like, why isn't just being a Jehovah's Witness enough to cure your depression? That would be an incredible testament to its truth.
In some cases, even medication. Well, if a person is in that situation...
In some cases, even medication. I know sometimes it gets dire, but it does go that far, folks.
They've been helped. They're still needing more help. Well, with humility and modesty, recognizing their limitations...
Those facial expressions we talked about earlier.
Not only spiritually, but medically. Well, there's one thing about it. Living in these last days, all of us are going to go periods of time where we need encouragement. In fact, we may be encouraging somebody today, and next week, we need it.
So
That's
true,
why
bestie.
the Apostle Paul in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 11 said, keep encouraging one another and building one another up, just as, in fact, you are doing. And if we do that, then we can help each of us endure these last days to the point where...
The Bible has such amazing advice. People who are healthy don't need a doctor, but sick people do. You should build each other up so that you're stronger.
As foretold by Isaiah, no one will say I'm sick, either spiritually, mentally, emotionally, or physically. So in line with today's text, let us keep up what we're doing. Speak consolingly to those who are depressed, support the weak, be patient toward all.
Yeah, encouraging too.
What a blessing it
That's
is to
my
have spiritual brothers and
thing
sisters
I try to avoid
keep
saying.
encouraging and building one another up during these last days.
Oop, my bad.
This month's music video titled
Oh no!
Every Minute is about just that.
Every minute? God. Every minute. That just gave me a little, like, internal flashback of being a Jehovah's Witness and feeling like you really are supposed to think about God every minute of the day. Wait, if we speed it up 2x, it should sound funny instead of triggering, but we'll see. We could just mute it. Whoa! And do a scene-by-scene analysis. Whoa!
It's like a mist that appears in a moment of time, it's gone. And our love...
Wow, pray in the... Don't do that, by the way. Just do your kids a favor. I 100% support you. Pray with your kids before school. Go for it. But don't do things that are going to get them bullied. Like, don't be the person who's like, come here, sweetie, let's say a prayer in front of everyone in the parking lot. Isn't that actually what Jesus criticized the Pharisees for doing? praying outside a middle school parking lot.
It's like the warm summer sun. Let it shine on the ones we love. This time, I can take it all for granted.
Okay, I'm gonna mute this. I'm gonna mute this and I'm gonna play it at regular speed, and we're gonna do kind of like we can do a beat by beat sort of golf announcer recap. Like, all right, she is taking the prescription medication, rubbing his shoulder. He looks like an older Terry Crews, in my opinion. Similar forehead wrinkles. A bowl full of grapes. But otherwise, this looks a lot like our shitty apartment we lived in when we first got married. You know what? She and I kind of have similar shirts, I'm realizing. Me and Best Girl from the video have similar striped shirts. So that's fun. All right, now they're going to sit and eat breakfast with a humongous, like an entire thing of bread. Like, that's a lot of bread just for 3 people at tea time. Loaf. I couldn't think of the word loaf. Okay, no, he doesn't look like Terry Crews anymore. But I never want regrets to bring me down. Nothing that would keep you from serving every minute of the day. Ay, ay, ay. That's really crazy. Like, Scientology has the more toxic, well, like the Sea Org specifically has really crazy slave labor, basically, and it's really, really hard work all the time, and people don't sleep a lot. And that's a pretty extreme example for cults, but all of them on some level do want to dominate all of your time. You know, I'm working on this video about Elon that's mostly, you know, kind of talking about him as a cult of personality figure. And even that, like, those kind of like big billionaire types who are, or not billionaire type, but like Jordan Peterson too, thought leader, guru types, I should say, like Joe Rogan. You know, they're also capitalists whose money depends on them literally capturing as much of your attention as possible. The more time you are listening to a 3-hour Joe Rogan podcast, you know, that's time that you're not spending listening to a competitor's thing. And so they're all trying to vie for your attention. Like Elon Musk bought X, which I was addicted to Twitter. I found that harder to quit than drinking. And it is like, it demands your constant attention. And so it kind of makes sense that he would want to be in charge of this attention hog. And the way it's set up now in the algorithm is to funnel people directly to him. Like, he's one of the recommended follows on Twitter. So I think, like, there's something to that cults want to demand your attention, because all of the more time that you are spending doing cult stuff, the less you are in the world. And any time that a witness is in the world, not supervised by the group, in an uncontrolled environment, that's a risk for them, because they could encounter something that takes them away from the group. And so, yeah, I don't know. We're putting together some pieces here. Aren't we, everyone? I just realized I'm saying we. Like, why? Every minute of the day. Sounds like the Master Sword in Skyward Sword. Let's get back to Sped Up. I actually kind of liked hearing the Sped Up song. Am I crazy? Also, look at this joy. Unironically, kind of a charming life.
When I see so much beauty around, then I know
that's a very nice little, a nice flat that they're living in there. Yeah, so every minute, instead of just having fun with your kids, following their joy, and just experiencing things that make them joyful with them, and teaching them things that have nothing to do with religion. Nope, you should be instilling your kid with as much religious doctrine every minute of their life, too. Maybe have them listen to some Kingdom songs when they're still in the womb.
every hour, every minute of life that I own.
Yeah,
I could
good
take it all for
call.
granted, let time just slip away, to forget to show my
Tony
love
Robbins,
right
great
now.
example. That was Mooncat, the YouTuber Mooncat, has a series on Tony Robbins. That's what popped up in my feed and got me onto her channel. And I think it was kind of before her more recent videos that are really popular. But boy, if you haven't seen those Mooncat videos on Tony Robbins, they're so good. I didn't know what a nightmare that guy is and what his whole grift is about.
I could put off till tomorrow what I can do today, but I never want regrets to bring me down. So I'm counting every minute, making every minute count.
Nope, put down the iPad.
It's a beautiful new world.
Okay, so this is fine. This is not necessarily related to Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm going to mute this again. But every time you're outside, you're just supposed to be saying like, wow, isn't it amazing that Jehovah created outdoors and we love outdoors so much? You're really supposed to do that as a witness. Word for word. So manipulative to use these cute kids. Of course they're adorable and watching them brush their teeth is so cute. And you can't help but smile. But that's messed up that they use that. To use children's smiles for evil. Also, it's a little scary in fast motion, TBH. The Bible storybook. I mean, we've looked at some of the stories in this book. Some of this is not bedtime story material.
In fact, like 95%.
Yeah, most of that I don't want to be putting in my head right before bed. Whoa, and there's photographs. They ran out of budget, so they just, at the end, they used screenshots from earlier in the production. It's like that Arrested Development episode.
Program, we've learned about many of the things we can do to prepare our spiritual go bag.
Oh, our spiritual go bag. Okay, I missed that. I forgot. I saw people talking about this on the Reddit. The spiritual go bag is kind of interesting. Like, having a go bag is not a bad thing to have. It's just like having a bag of emergency supplies in case there's a natural disaster and you had to evacuate or something. And so a lot of people like in California who have gone through wildfires, or people in Florida where there's a lot of like hurricanes, it's not abnormal to have a go bag. But witnesses really emphasize this. I've mentioned this before, but I was involved in the training for like disaster relief stuff, and me and my dad and like LDC people went around and did this training at all the Kingdom Halls in our circuit. Yeah, I guess our circuit. And it didn't mention Armageddon in the actual instructions, which is kind of interesting. But this is Jehovah's Witnesses, and so it is unspoken but understood that you should have a go bag in case of Armageddon. ICOA, in case of Armageddon, have a go bag. Have a JW go bag. So, like, in addition to your poncho and your can of beans and a flashlight, have a New World Translation Bible and a songbook in there. You can tell I don't have a go bag because I don't know if you necessarily want a can of beans in there.
Fully equipped for the future. We can preach zealously to people of all
your
sorts.
Rorschach from Watchmen.
Cultivate qualities that bring peace to our family life.
Fine, like
build
this.
our trust in Jehovah by reflecting on the blessing He's given us.
Reflect on the blessing.
Our worldwide brotherhood. Every month.
Everything good in your life is from an invisible man you'll never meet. He never has to talk to you, but if you don't worship him, he'll kill you.
To meet another part of that brotherhood through our video postcard. And this month, we're
Whoa,
going to the western edge
video
of Europe,
postcard.
the Azores archipelago. The Azores are a chain of 9 volcanic islands, about 1,600
How beautiful.
kilometers
It looks
long,
like a paradise, but that's weird because the Earth isn't supposed to be a paradise yet.
miles west of Portugal. Here, vineyards and plantations meet steep
vineyards,
crater lakes,
Eye-Ren vineyards, Springus.
Steam and volcanic gases escape from the earth through vents called fumaroles.
Oh, I can have him say asses for sure, because you just said gases.
Island of São Miguel, this brother prepares a local dish in a fumarole, letting it cook for up to 7 hours. Thanks to the subtropical climate, the Azores produce...
This is so strange that they do this. It's just posturing to make it seem like the group is more diverse than it is. Like, it is ethnically diverse, but they sort of erase everybody's culture because everybody has to put on the new personality, which is the JW personality, which gets you talking like, I love the lavender, or whatever those kind of weird stilted people were saying in that demonstration earlier.
An abundance of pineapples.
An abundance of pineapples. It's my favorite John Green book.
Our brothers enjoy making beautiful crafts from local resources, such as fish scales. And they enjoy preparing regional foods like these bolu lefdu cakes, which can be found at any meal. The first seeds of truth were planted here in the early 20th century by Azorians who learned the truth in the United States.
Adam Lopez is back and he said, take a bath.
Despite
Why would
decades
you
of
say
church-led
that to me?
opposition, publishers have always found cheap black
Is it because of my greasy face?
Today, There are more
It's
than
just the
800
lighting.
publishers in 15 congregations in the Azores.
And my skin.
Our brothers conduct more than 500 Bible studies. Memorial attendance was more than twice the number of witnesses here. The good news is preached in both Portuguese and Portuguese Sign Language.
Wait a minute. He said it. He said the phrase of the day. So you know what that means.
And that was indeed good news.
You have to look out for that. That sound drop can happen because the good news can hit you wherever we are.
Now, moving on, we see the good news wherever we are.
Yep. Adam, when you're making fun of somebody, when you're saying all this mean stuff about how I need to take a shower, which I actually do, you're making fun of a guy who took the time to get out his piano and play a little song because a guy said a word funny. That's the kind of... I mean, I'm not well, is what I'm saying. This is a mentally unhealthy person you're dealing with here.
Language.
I brought that up as if it was a good thing, and then I realized it was actually unhinged.
Their territory includes the islands of Flourish and Corvo.
Oh,
From the
this
Azores,
guy.
our
He's
brothers
a
and sisters in
successful
Santa Cruz
troll.
Flourish congregation sent you their
'Cause
warm love and
I'm
peace.
feeding him.
And we send our love to all of you as well.
Wait a minute. Does Brother Lopez need to hear the new light about beards? He's not allowed to judge people for their beards anymore. That's the law from God. As it happens. Hey. Also, beards are kind of sexy. Many people are saying, we're gonna have a big, beautiful beard. Very sexy. Sorry, I don't know why that happens. Now here's what I've got for you. I've got a little conspiracy theory about
Welcome, Internet. I'm so happy to share with you this conspiracy theory.
I think that Adam Lopez is a disgruntled Watchtower publishing department member. I think Adam Lopez is a pseudonym, and that really, Adam Lopez's entire time has been Gaius Glockington himself. There, I said it. I think it's true. I think that Gaius Glockenstein, who is still notably and aggressively clean-shaven, I think he's on the other side of this beard issue. And because he's upset at not just the beard issue, but my commentary and my very incisive and perfect accent that I did copying him, I think that he's a little jealous and upset, and he's and inactive. No, that's not how JWs talk, so I know that's not true. Also, if you're inactive, why are you, like, glazing the cult? That's weird. Be normal like me, Adam Lopez. Get out your piano and play a song when a guy says a word funny, and then make an edit out of it for fun. That's what my opinion. That's what I think a healthy adult would do. All right, everybody. Well, before we go, I do have to quickly go to the complain about YouTube corner.
Oh, happy day. All worldly complaining about YouTube.
Yes, no complaints here. YouTube, we're coming back, baby, in a big way. I've got a video that is up early for patrons and members right now that you can watch. And basically, this big video essay project I've been doing just keeps on... it gets a little out of control. It just kind of got away from me. And I'm also doing something a little bit outside of my normal coverage, so I just want to make sure I get it right. I'm having a lot of fun with it, but it's been a while since I've uploaded, and so I recorded and edited a video that I've wanted to do for a while, which is just about where I see the religion is in terms of its like lifespan. Like, can Jehovah's Witnesses turn this ship around, or is their brand irreversibly damaged? And so I kind of go through what I see as all the reasons why the group is on the downswing, the uphill battle they have to ever have an upswing again, and it's a fun video. So anyway, that's it. That's what's going on. I'm pretty sure that we have merchandise somewhere, although I think with tariffs those might not exist. You might have to get them while you can.
These clothes are designed to sexually excite both men and women.
Yes, indeed. All right, so thank you so much for watching, everybody. We'll be back to our regularly scheduled coverage tomorrow. And, be safe and just have a good time. I don't have an outro yet for the live streams.
Welcome. In this month's program, we'll meet a troubled and violent child. We'll learn how couples can make love and peace and come to this month's edition of JW Casting Broad.
Live from an apartment, it's Sunday service.